Okay, now then, I've got 7 o'clock straight up and down. This is Sunday night podcast for Paranormal Houston Investigations. And once again, we're bringing you material tonight, which is kind of controversial, as all the material that we talk about is on our podcast. It's food for thought. It doesn't necessarily have to be something you agree with. In fact, I hope it's something you don't. You're going to benefit from hearing things you don't know and don't understand more than you will if we repeat things that you know. So we're trying to educate you, teach you things you don't know. And if you will just, even if you disagree with what you hear being said, if you will listen to it, think about it over the next week or two, you may change, you may have a total epiphany and revelation and totally change your entire course of life. So, and come around to somebody else's way of thinking. So that's what this is all about. We're here to be friendly with one another, have an open discussion. Tonight's guest is Joshua Shapiro, and he is an expert on the crystal skulls, which is why I initially contacted him. But we're going to go into some other things first. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Joshua. And Joshua, if you will you define for us what the crystal skulls are all about?
Okay, sure will. So I like to call myself a crystal skull explorer, which means that what I'm about to share with you is an exploration I've been doing since the early 1980s when I saw my first one. Definition of a crystal skull is exactly as the word says. It's a quartz crystal, or actually the definition now is any type of gemstone that is in the shape of a skull image. Now, it could be a human bone skull. John is showing you right there. He has an example of a modern skull that's been carved by a Chinese carver. So I've talked to Chinese carvers. I've talked to Brazilian carvers. We actually have an Indian carver who's able to make these skulls. Because we like to have ones that are made out of quartz crystal, which is really the first ones that showed up from a historical perspective, when crystal skulls started to show up in the late 1800s and early 1900s, they were primarily made out of quartz crystal. Quartz crystal is a very hard substance, so these carvers have to use diamond tip tools in order to be able to carve them, which means they have to be very talented and they have to be very careful, because if they make the wrong cut, it can destroy it. But there are basically 4 different types of crystal skulls that exist in the world that I've come into contact with. And the first one is the modern ones being made now by these carvers, which I'm talking about. So we just call them modern or contemporary skulls. And of those, believe it or not, there are thousands upon thousands that have been carved. And we've actually helped, I don't know how many people to get their own personal skull. So if this is something that you might be curious about, or you contact me afterwards, or you might be interested to get one of your own, we can help you with that. The second type of crystal skull is called an old crystal skull. This would be one that was made over 100 years ago. And then depending upon the crystal skull researcher or an investigator you speak to, they have different opinions if it's, 500, 1,000, 2,000 years ago. And we have very old or ancient skulls, which would be ones that were made by very advanced civilizations, or what I call galactic extraterrestrial races that were gifted to humanity. They're extremely advanced. They seem to have tremendous energies connected to it and have a very profound impact on people. And the last type of skull that I've seen, which we actually have one, and I don't know where it is here. We have like 30 skulls over on my right side. It's an apported crystal skull, which for paranormal researchers means an object that comes from seemingly nowhere and manifests into the physical. So there was this spiritual medium that we knew, which I can't remember his name. And we went to one of his sessions, and I actually had a vision this was going to happen, but I thought, it's wishful thinking. But during his session, he had objects supporting through his mouth, an energy vortex, and a little tiny skull came out of his mouth, looked kind of like a monkey skull, but he knew that it was supposed to come to us and be gifted to us. So those are the 4 different types. Now, the way that most people know crystal skulls, before John goes into his next question, is I'm trying to jam pack in a half an hour all the information I possibly can, okay, is the Indiana Jones film, the last one, which had actually 1 main skull, which then turned into 13. They obviously got this idea about crystal skulls based upon that there are real crystal skulls. And I can tell you, when the Indiana Jones film came out in 2008 is when I had the most interviews for the media. You know, they heard about me, and all of them were great except for one group. I think when I was in Brazil, I did a radio show, and they were very negative about it. So the main problem with crystal skulls is because it's in a skull image. We have been brought up and taught that skulls are evil, but this doesn't make any sense because we all have inside of our head a bone skull. So are we saying that in the human body, everything's great except for our skull is evil? No, it doesn't make sense. Most likely what happened is the crystal skulls were known to be power objects by ancient people. And the priests didn't want the people, you know, to know what the skulls could do. So they tried to make it so like only they knew how to work with them. And if you worked with them, bad things would happen to you. So many people who contact us, who are what I would call crystal skull guardians, like John is, have had amazing experiences with their crystal skulls and have found that their skulls actually are a tool for helping them with their spiritual evolution and growth or develop their abilities. So sometimes I'll have some of my skulls sitting by me just to create a really great energy when I'm doing my writing or planning something, or I'm listening to information or listening to music. Or the most powerful way in which I've been affected by crystal skulls is doing a meditation with a music I really resonate with, because I'm very sensitive to vibrational frequencies, and holding a skull, and it's just tremendous. So that's what I can tell you very quickly what a crystal skull is. I actually covered several of my questions already. I sent you.
Specifically, though, when you were talking about types, I only heard you mention one type. What are the different types exactly?
So again, we have the modern or contemporary skulls, which are the ones the carvers are making now.
Yeah.
We have old crystal skulls, which would be people maybe 100 years, 1,000, 2,000 that started to carve them, but they're not so advanced in design.
Okay.
And we have very old or ancient ones, which are like the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull for me is one of the most important and probably a very ancient skull, is very sophisticatedly done, very accurately done, has tremendous frequencies of energies, has profoundly changed my life in so many ways, would be an ancient or old skull. And then we have the apported crystal skulls, which is where they just come from nowhere, usually through a spiritual medium that's opening up a dimensional door so that spirit can send objects through the door. So through his mouth was an energy vortex. And besides the skull were like 50 other jewels that came out. It was totally just dropping from his mouth. So those are the 4 different types that I know about.
What is the most profound experience you've had with a crystal skull?
Okay, so I'm just going to be spontaneous since we have a short period of time, and I'll go with an experience I had with the Mitchell Hedges skull. So let me set this up for your viewers and listeners so you know why I was there. So Bill Holman is the guardian of the Mitchell Hedges skull. He is a friend of mine. I have spoken to him. We have worked together on some projects. We brought him to Seattle for like 2 weeks and visited many centers. So when the Indiana Jones movie came out, I was actually invited to his house to be interviewed by the Sci-Fi Channel, who did a 2-hour documentary. They basically were focusing on him and the Mitchell Hedges skull. But what we were able to do is we were able to set up at a high school. He was in like central Indiana, northern Indiana, and I was in Chicago at that time, so it's about an hour and a half away. We were able to set up at a local high school that he arranged to do scientific research with the skull, measuring its frequency of energy with a meridian stress test system, which measures on your hands and feet the meridian energies. So we were able to have One of my skulls was there, his skull was there, people were blindfolded, and then we had like a crystal that was the same type as the Mitchell Hedges clear quartz, and they would be tested. It would be put on a metal plate, and then they would be connected to this machine, so they were tested. So after we did all that, I asked Bill, could I come back to your house and meditate with the Mitchell Hedges skull? Because for me, it's the most powerful one. And, I didn't know how long I would be staying in Chicago, because I wound up moving, a little while after that. And he said, yeah, sure, no problem, just come. And so what happened is I had about a 20 or 25 minute interview. So the setup was, he had this table from Anna Mitchell Hedges, who was, the original person who found this crystal skull, right, that supposedly came from France, from the Queen of France, Louis' queen, which I forget what her name, Marie, and then he put the skull on top of that table. It was a very low table on a Lazy Susan. So he said, you cannot touch the skull, but you can move it with the Lazy Susan if you want to position it. I had my MP3 player, and I had 3 of my personal crystal skulls with me. Portal de Luz is a 10-pound smoky quartz skull, was face to face with the Mitchell Hedges skull. Then I had 2 other skulls by the same carver in Brazil, a small rose quartz skull and another smoky quartz skull like Portal de Luz, but smaller. And they were behind him, so it was like in a triangle. And so then I would be in a meditative position in front of the skull. First, it was facing my personal skull, and then halfway through, I had it come face me. For the first part of this meditation, as I was listening to the music, I felt that I was experiencing what heaven would be like. Now, the reason I used that word is because it was so calm and peaceful, and it's like I didn't think about anything in my life. I didn't care anything else going on. I just was happy to be there. Now, I'm an Aries. As a typical Aries, I'm not going to sit for 25 minutes to do the same thing. I will get bored and I need to do something else. But the energy that was there during this meditation was so powerful that I could just sit there and I was totally happy. But then in the second part of the meditation, and I do not fully understand completely what happened, but it totally changed me, is what I know, is to my right, up in the air, behind the skull, in the room where I'm meditating, some kind of intelligent beings were there. Now, how do I know that? Because I could feel them and I could hear them talking, but I couldn't hear their words. And what I remember from that experience is those beings knew everything about me. They knew who I was and just about everything in my life. And I had never experienced beings like this before. They're not from the earth. They were probably a group consciousness. And, I can go into the vibrational frequency of that, but what they did is they shifted my energy. So after that experience, I'm much more calm. I'm more in the neutral. I don't get upset so often. Things don't bother me. Even energies, like I remember I had been to New York City and I couldn't deal with that crazy energy there. But then after that experience, it didn't bother me anymore. So it means my vibrational frequency shifted. One other experience they're telling me I need to share. This is with Portal de Luz, which if people go to our website, which you're showing, you're giving out that information, and you go underneath who we are, we have all of our skulls listed on our website there. Look for Portal de Luz, Portal of Light. So I had Portal of Light, and we went to this group in Belgium, and they were working with a Lequier antenna, which is a device that's like a dowsing rod, but it has numbers on it. So when you put it out, and you set it to the numbers, when it breaks like a dowsing rod, it's because they're measuring for specific frequencies of energy. Okay. So it was this, my friend and his teacher and other students. So the instructor said, look at this. This is a stone. Why are we here? We're wasting our time. Nothing is going to happen with our tests. So then his practitioners, his student, started measuring on Portal de Luz. And they went back and they said, teacher, we don't understand this. This crystal skull is showing the same frequencies of energy as the 5 physical senses which we have. No, that's not possible. Okay, try it again. 3 times they did it, and 3 times Portal de Luz came back with the vibrational frequencies of the human physical senses, as if saying, hey, I'm a person too. You cannot discount me. I'm alive. I'm not just a stone. I'm alive. I have consciousness, which is the whole point. If somebody asks me, what are the skulls about? The ones that are activated are holding intelligence, consciousness. When we speak to our skulls, we're having conversations with them. It's not just a dead stone. It's like there's a living consciousness that comes through that. And so this is a way, this is a whole point if you're going to be going on a spiritual path or a paranormal path. There is a part of us that is connected to the universe in other vibrational frequencies. And so what the crystal skulls do is they are a door to allow these intelligences, which are on these other dimensions and planes, to come here so they can help us in our spiritual evolution. Because we all know right now, crazy things are going on in our world, and we definitely can use the help, the love, the positive frequency, the enhancing frequencies that they can share with us, the healing frequencies. So this is one of the purposes that the skulls have taught me, is that they are receptacles for the higher vibrational frequencies and energy and knowledge.
Very good. Thank you, Joshua.
I know I talk a lot.
No, that's okay. Not a problem. We got plenty of time.
Okay, great.
Why are the crystal skulls vital for our future, and how will they help us create world peace?
Okay, so Uri Geller, who I got to meet when I was in England, he asked me that second question. How will these crystal skulls help humanity? So I'm going to give you the answer I gave him, then I'll come back to your other question, which we actually have done. And I think this has helped. So I said, Uri, what if we had all these people who are crystal skull guardians and we did a meditation for world peace? What do you think would happen? I think that the collective energy that we would create if we do it at the same time could really help to boost our planet up into a higher frequency. So very shortly after I spoke to him, I started to do that. And I have no idea how many of these world peace meditations we did, because I think we did them on the 13th day of each month, and we did 13 meditations each year. So I'm guessing close to 100 over a 7-year period. Plus we had Crystal Skull World Day twice.
Okay.
And I was told the people in Quebec, there was a group that worked with crystal skulls. They had over 1,000 in the same room at one time during Crystal Skull World Day. So that would be how to create peace. Plus the other key I would say is they have incredible information and knowledge and energies. And as we better understand what they are and work with them, which is one of the goals that I hope to do in this new spiritual center I've started, the Center for the Advancement of Humanity, which is one of the links I gave you to share with people. We're really going to be studying that and probably doing more projects to work on creating these very powerful energies for world peace.
Okay.
What was the other part of the question? I forgot.
Let's see. Why are the crystal skulls vital for our future?
Well, they're vital for our future because they're helping individuals right now to open up to their spiritual essence, to their divine essence. And the other thing is that the wisdom and knowledge that has been programmed into them by very advanced people in our past, like Kent Tartaria, they are going to make it available to us, and we will have access to it, much more greater access than we have now, which is mostly only through spiritual mediums. We'll probably have very advanced devices, and the skulls may actually light up and talk to us so we can actually hear them. So this is why I think they're important for the future.
All right. You want to briefly describe the 9 free ebooks that you were telling me about that you're offering to the public?
Okay, so because we're in the end times, there's a lot of different areas that are starting to come out, which is the truth about who we are and our planet and our history. And so since I started getting involved with the crystal skulls in the 1980s and on my spiritual path, I've always felt that it is I signed up for this, I guess, before I was born, to always share the best information I come across that could help people. And especially right now, there are so many lies and misinformation that's coming out and things that we were not taught properly in our school and what the media teaches us in our movies. I just felt like I have to create free ebooks to share different information on different subjects to help people. So obviously we have a crystal skull free ebook. So we've already talked about that. I already whispered about Tartaria, which people are starting to realize that there was an advanced civilization 200 plus years ago, which these advanced buildings that still exist, which we cannot explain how primitive people from 200 years ago could have possibly made them. That the elite, that's if you believe that we're in this undeclared war between the light and the dark, the elite did something to eliminate those people and totally took out the history of who they are. So I have a book that talks about Tartaria with evidence to show how when I became exposed to it, it was so apparent right in front of my place. Another book I have, which is very controversial, compares the heliocentric model of the Earth with the geocentric model of the Earth. But the geocentric model of the Earth is also called flat Earth. Most people go, how could somebody believe the Earth is flat? We've been told that it's a globe. However, in my book, I show why there are problems with the heliocentric model. And like, for example, I just saw a video on Telegram that was taken by an astronaut, which was showing the moon, and he was moving around it, and it was completely flat. It was not a round ball of rock. It was plasma light, self-illuminating light. So this one in particular, when you get into flat Earth, it's going to shake up everything that you ever believe in. Okay, because we got a dome, we have the ice wall, which is Antarctica, and then there are other lands outside of Antarctica, which are part of our Earth, which they never will tell you about. And this could be where the galactic or extraterrestrial beings may be coming from. They may not be coming from another planet or outer space or another world. They're coming from our world, the lands we don't know about. I have another book called Messages from Argus, which talk about the two most powerful experiences I've had. One, I basically kind of shared with you with the Mitchell Hedges skull, but I had two other ones where my future self is communicating with me as a spirit guide between 2037 to 2040. He shows me total peace on the planet. The future children will have no clue about all these things that we've gone through. They won't even believe us when we tell them our experiences. And then the second one is I had a coma experience where a van struck me when I lived in Las Vegas. I was just walking to McDonald's and I was taken out of my body because I don't remember being hit. And I remember being at a meeting on another dimension with galactic beings, sort of like from the first Star Wars movie where Princess Amidala goes and talks to all these beings from all these worlds. I was at a meeting like that. And so the key is I saw our future. But when I was coming back, I pleaded, please don't blank my memory. Oh, we're sorry, you can't remember what you saw. However, as things start happening in your present on the earth, you're going to know what's true and what's not true. So that's why I know things about COVID, the vax, this war in Israel too that just started. They're not telling you the truth about what's going on with that. So the key is anything to do with the media, don't believe what they tell you, okay? Go with your intuition or gut feeling, trust yourself more, and don't give your power away. So we have that book. There's another book where I talk about things happening behind the scenes, which was inspired after I talked to Gene Decode, who's one of the key whistleblowers. Amazing man, has all kinds of experiences and insights into what's happening. He actually died and went in front of God and got sent back. So I have 5 video interviews with him on our video channel. And also this book was kind of inspired. So I talk about what I think is really happening behind the scenes. Let's see, what else? Then I have 2 books that are not mine. Everything You're Told is a Lie by another author. Nothing is true, everything is a lie. 500 pages. It's kind of more information than what I put in my book. And MJ12, Majestic 12, which is considered to be the early group that started studying UFOs when we had contact with Roswell and so on. They are now, they have a book they put out where they answer questions and say, we're going to help with disclosure for people of the earth. So I don't know, there might be, we're in a computer matrix. I have a book about that too, where I talk about different things. And also, what's this thing, project, it's not Project Bluebeam, which is where they create a false UFO invasion. They have advanced technology to do it. Project Looking Glass is also talked about in one of my books as well. So I'm covering different subjects to give people an idea that our history, the nature of our world, our connection with spirit, other information that I've discovered on my path. And I just say, take a look at it and see what has value for you or what resonates. I'm not here to convince anyone. I believe the truth on everything is going to be coming out in the near future. I don't know when. Spirit told me at the end of January. In 2023, this year, before the end of this year, the real truth is going to begin coming out, and that's already starting to happen. There's a number of people who are doing that. So that's what the 9 free ebooks cover.
Okay. Now then, can you help a person acquire their own crystal skull?
Yes, as I mentioned in the beginning, we have this Indian carver that we know who's very good. So we actually have 3 skulls with us right now that are looking for new homes. And we're going to put one up on Facebook, and then they're sending us another 8 or 9 from this carver. But also we can go back to the carver if an individual has a specific type of material they want for their skull or shape, because we're basing the shape of the skull we offer on one of our personal skulls, which is called Geronimo Golden Eagle Eye, was made by a Brazilian carver. Geronimo Golden Eagle Eye is our indigenous skull. It contains indigenous energies, and so many people were drawn to it that we start talking to carvers to duplicate it, and then charge it. We charge these skulls with our own. So when the person gets it, it's already ready to be used. So that's the source that we have to help people. And, we try to work within the means of the individual. The size of the skull doesn't matter. You can get a small skull to start with, and it can be as powerful as one, as big as the one you showed, or even much larger.
Okay. How can people contact you, and do you have a website?
Yes, of course, we have a website. So the easiest way to contact me would be through my email, which is crystalskullexplorers@gmail.com. And Crystal Skull Explorers is all in lowercase, one word, at gmail.com. And our website is cse.crystalskullexplorers.com. cse.crystalskullexplorers.com. But John has made it available in the chat. And the key is, if you don't want to write all these things down, just send me an email at crystalskullexplorers@gmail.com, and I can give you all the information. There's all kinds of videos. We have on 3 video channels on Rumble. And I'm involved in everything. I'll get you connected with our Telegram channel that's on Telegram, which is connected to our center that I mentioned. I'm constantly posting the most incredible information I'm finding in other channels. Like I was telling John, I posted on there how this guy created a portal, dimensional portal in his room, and another person who had a book that changed its title, which is linked to the Mandela experiment. So all this kind of information is getting ready to come out now.
Fantastic. Well, our time is getting up right now. We got, it's 7:29. Is there anything else you want to share with us, Josh, before you go?
Yeah, the last thing I would share is, if everyone, this is a message I got from Spirit, if everyone would do a meditation for 5 minutes every day and imagine in your mind, what would the earth be like if we had total peace? This will accelerate the process to get us to that future that my future self is showing me. So each of us can contribute to that. And when you hear all this negative news, don't give your power away, because most of it is lies. They want you to be afraid. The elite, These negative groups work off of our fear and our anger and all that. Let's not empower them. Let's empower God's will to have total peace and harmony on this planet. I know that we are in the process of doing it, and we're all participating to make this happen.
Well, thank you for being our guest tonight, Joshua. I appreciate you coming on, sharing your knowledge with us. And again, we talked about future episodes that we might have where you could contribute, and we'd love to have you back. We'll be getting in touch with you fairly soon about that too.
Okay, thank you so much, John, for this opportunity. God bless everyone, and just know amazing things are getting ready to happen.
Okay.